A chance encounter at a fence brings together Clara Wren, a young woman with a love for horses, and Grayson Bell, a reclusive millionaire haunted by his past. Their unexpected connection blossoms into something neither could have imagined, but dark forces conspire against their happiness. Will their love survive the dangers that threaten to tear them apart? Before we begin this story, comment below where you're watching from. The afternoon sun warmed Clara Wren's face as she pedaled her old bicycle along the dirt road leading to High Ridge Estate. At 25, Clara still looked girlish with her honey brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and minimal makeup on her freckled face. She wore faded jeans and a plain blue t-shirt, hardly the outfit of someone planning to trespass on a millionaire's property. As the massive iron gates of the estate came into view, Clara slowed down. She wasn't supposed to be there. A large, "No trespassing" sign hung on the fence, but that had never stopped her before. Since she was a child, she had been drawn to this place, or more specifically, to the magnificent horses that roamed its pastures. Clara propped her bicycle against a tree and walked toward the fence. Her fingers curled around the wire as her eyes searched the open field. A smile spread across her face when she spotted them, 6 beautiful horses grazing peacefully in the distance. "Hello, beautiful ones," she whispered. "I missed you." Clara couldn't afford riding lessons. Her part-time job at the local library barely covered her rent and the medical bills left over from caring for her Aunt Martha, who had passed away 60 months ago. But watching these horses run free gave her a joy nothing else could match. Unknown to Clara, on the balcony of the grand stone house that overlooked the property, a man watched her through narrowed eyes. Grayson Bell stood with his hands braced against the railing, his tall frame rigid as he observed the young woman at his fence. At 31, his dark hair was already starting to gray at the temples, a result of stress rather than age. The locals called him cold, reclusive, even strange. After his brother's death 3 years ago, he had withdrawn from society almost completely. But something about this woman caught his attention. The gentle way she spoke to his horses, the stillness in her posture, the fact that she came back week after week just to watch from a distance. Without fully understanding why, Grayson decided to approach her. He made his way down the winding staircase of his empty house and walked across the grounds, his expensive boots crushing the grass beneath them. Clara was so lost in watching a young foal prance around its mother that she didn't notice Grayson's approach until his shadow fell across her. "Oh!" She jumped back from the fence, her face flushing with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't be here." Grayson's face remained impassive, but his voice held no anger when he spoke. "You're Clara Wren. You work at the library in town." Clara's eyes widened. "How do you know my name?" "Small town," he replied simply. "I've seen you here before, many times." Clara looked down at her worn sneakers. "I'll go. I didn't mean to trespass." "You can see them all," Grayson said suddenly. "If you dine with me tonight." Clara's head snapped. Up, her mouth falling open in surprise. Was this handsome, mysterious millionaire asking her on a date? Impossible. "No, I couldn't," she stammered. The corner of Grayson's mouth lifted slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. "It's not a date. Just supper. I'm not good with strangers." His voice softened. "But you didn't feel like one." Clara studied his face. Behind the carefully controlled expression, she saw something that made her pause. A tiredness, a sincerity that seemed at odds with his reputation. "Okay," she found herself saying. "What time?" 7 o'clock. "The gate will be open for you." With that, Grayson turned and walked away, leaving Clara stunned and wondering what she had just agreed to. That evening, Clara stood in front of her small closet in her tiny apartment, frantically trying to find something appropriate to wear to dinner. With a millionaire. She finally settled on a simple floral dress, the one she wore to job interviews. It wasn't fancy, but it was the best she had. At precisely 7, Clara walked through the open gates of High Ridge Estate, feeling underdressed and completely out of place. The main house loomed ahead, its windows glowing warmly against the darkening. Sky Grayson opened the door himself. No butler, no staff. He wore a simple button-down shirt and dark pants, looking more casual than Clara had expected. "You came," he said, sounding genuinely surprised. "I said I would," Clara replied. He led her through the enormous house, past rooms filled with expensive furniture that looked barely used. Clara had expected dinner in a formal dining room, with crystal glasses and silver utensils she wouldn't know how to use properly. Instead, Grayson brought her to a cozy kitchen with a small wooden table set for two. A radio played softly in the corner. "You cook?" Clara couldn't hide her surprise. "Not well, but yes." He gestured for her to sit. "Nothing fancy, just pasta. I hope that's okay." Clara relaxed a little. "It's perfect." Their conversation started awkwardly, with long pauses and short answers. But as the meal progressed, something shifted. Grayson asked about her job at the library, and Clara found herself telling him about her favorite books. When she mentioned her love of horses, his eyes lit up for the first time. "You've been watching them for years," he said. "Why?" Clara looked down at her plate. "My parents couldn't afford lessons. Then they died when I was 15, and I went to live with my aunt. She was sick for a long time before she passed away recently." Clara shrugged. "Watching your horses always made me feel peaceful." Grayson nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I know about losing family." The simple statement held such weight that Clara didn't need to ask for details. After dinner, Grayson walked her to the door. The night air was cool, and stars dotted the sky above them. "They liked you," he said suddenly. "Who?" "The horses. They don't trust easily." He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "Neither do I." Clara smiled. "Thank you for dinner, Mr. Bell." "Grayson," he corrected. "Would you like to see them up close? You could come back tomorrow." Clara couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Really? I'd love that. 3 o'clock. I can show you around the stables. I'll be here." As Clara walked back through the gates, she felt lighter than she had in months, maybe years. True to her word, Clara returned the next day. Grayson met her at the gates and led her to the stables, a beautiful wooden structure that housed his prize horses. "This is Midnight," he said, introducing her to a majestic black stallion. "And that's Daisy, Storm, Thunder, Princess, and the little one is Hope." Clara approached Midnight slowly, her heart racing with excitement. "May I?" Grayson nodded, and Clara reached out to stroke the horse's muzzle. The animal nuzzled against her hand, and she laughed with delight. "He likes you," Grayson said, watching them. Over the next few weeks, Clara became a regular visitor at High Ridge Estate. She helped Grayson feed and brush the horses, learning each one's personality. The foal, Hope, became her favorite, following her around the pasture with curious eyes. One sunny afternoon, Grayson surprised her with an offer. "Would you like to learn to ride?" Clara's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" Princess is gentle. She'd be perfect for a beginner. That day, Clara had her first riding lesson. Grayson was patient, showing her how to mount properly, how to hold the reins, how to signal the horse to walk and stop. When she finally rode around the paddock on her own, the joy on her face made Grayson smile, a real smile that transformed his usually serious features. As spring turned to summer, Clara and Grayson's friendship deepened. They rode together through fields of wild rye, raced along the fence line, and spent quiet evenings in the stable, sharing stories over apples and oats. Clara learned that Grayson's brother, Andrew, had died in a riding accident 3 years ago, an accident Grayson blamed himself for. Since then, he had withdrawn from society, focusing solely on the estate and the horses his brother had loved. "People in town think you're cold," Clara told him one evening as they sat on the stable bench. "I know," he replied, his eyes on the setting sun. "Maybe I was, until you came along." Clara felt her cheeks warm at his words. She had begun to care for Grayson, more than she wanted to admit, but she kept her feelings hidden, afraid of ruining the friendship they had built. One rainy afternoon, a thunderstorm rolled in while they were riding. They rushed back to the stables, soaking wet and laughing. Inside, one of the younger horses, Storm, became frightened by the thunder. Clara approached him gently, speaking in soothing tones until the animal calmed. Grayson watched her with wonder. "You have a gift with them." When Clara turned, she noticed his hands were trembling slightly. Without thinking, she reached out and took them in hers. "The storm will pass," she said softly, meaning more than just the weather. Grayson looked down at their joined hands, then up at her face. Something shifted in his eyes, a warmth, a question, a possibility. The moment was broken by the sound of tires on gravel. A sleek black car pulled up outside the stable, and a stern-looking older man in an expensive suit stepped out, holding an umbrella. "Grayson," the man called. "We need to talk." Grayson's expression immediately closed off. "My trustee," he explained, to Clara. "I'll be right back." Clara busied herself with the horses while Grayson spoke with the man outside. Their voices were muffled by the rain, but she could tell by their body language that the conversation was tense. When Grayson returned, his face was troubled. "Is everything okay?" Clara asked. "Just business," he replied, but she could tell he wasn't being entirely truthful. That night, as Clara prepared to leave, Grayson seemed distracted. He walked her to her bicycle in silence, his thoughts clearly. "Elsewhere? Same time tomorrow?" she asked hopefully. Grayson hesitated. "Clara, there's something I need to tell you." He was interrupted by his phone ringing. With an apologetic look, he answered it, walking a few steps away to take the call. Clara waited, an uneasy feeling settling in her stomach. When Grayson returned, his expression was unreadable. "I have to go to the city for a few days," he said. "Business matters." "Oh." Clara tried to hide her disappointment. "Of course. You can still come see the horses. Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper, will be here." Clara nodded, though it wouldn't be the same without him. "I'll see you when you get back, then." Grayson looked like he wanted to say more, but instead, he simply squeezed her hand briefly before walking back toward the house. 3 days passed with no word from Grayson. Clara visited the horses each afternoon, but the estate felt empty without him. Mrs. Winters was polite but distant, watching Clara with curious eyes as she moved around the stables. On the 4th day, Clara arrived to find an envelope on the stable bench with her name written on it in Grayson's neat handwriting. Her heart pounding, she opened it and read, "Clara, you reminded me how it feels to breathe again, but I need to know if this is real, or if you only came for the horses." "Grayson." Clara stared at the letter, confused by its meaning. Of course, she had come for the horses initially, but now her thoughts were interrupted by a panicked whinny. Clara dropped the letter and ran outside. Mrs. Winters was calling for her from the pasture. "Hope is missing," the older woman cried. The gate was open. Clara's blood ran cold. Hope, the young foal she had grown to love, was gone. Without hesitation, she ran toward the open gate, scanning the foggy fields beyond the estate. In the distance, through the mist, she spotted a figure, leading a frightened horse away, not Grayson, but someone familiar. Someone from her past. Clara froze, her heart hammering in her chest. It was Jake Mercer, her ex-boyfriend who had broken her heart and disappeared with her savings 2 years ago. The one person she had sworn never to see again, and now he had. Hope, everything she had found at High Ridge Estate, the horses, Grayson, a chance at happiness, suddenly felt threatened. As she stared at Jake's retreating figure, one terrible question echoed in her mind. How did he find her? And why was he here now? Clara's heart pounded in her chest as she raced after Jake Mercer. The fog swirled around her, making it difficult to keep him in sight. Hope's frightened neighs guided her forward. "Jake, stop right now," Clara shouted, her voice echoing across the field. Jake turned, surprise flashing across his handsome face when he saw her. At 30, he still had the same charming smile that had once made her weak in the knees. But Clara knew better now. Behind that smile was a man who had stolen her savings and disappeared without a word 2 years ago. "Clara? Well, isn't this a surprise?" Jake said, holding tight to Hope's lead rope as the foal tried to pull away. "Let her go," Clara demanded, approaching cautiously. "She doesn't belong to you." Jake's smile widened. "Actually, I've been hired to take this horse. Nothing personal, just business." "Hired? By who?" Clara couldn't believe what she was hearing. "That's not your concern." Jake glanced past her toward the estate. Though I'm surprised to find you here. Got yourself a rich boyfriend now, huh? Moving up in the world? Clara ignored his taunt. Hope is just a baby. She's scared. Please, Jake. Something in her voice must have reached him because Jake's expression softened slightly. Look, I don't want to hurt you, Clara. I never did. But I need this job. Whatever they're paying you, it's not worth it, Clara said, inching closer. Stealing a horse is a serious crime. Jake hesitated, and in that moment Clara lunged forward and grabbed Hope's rope. The foal immediately pressed against her, trembling. You always did care more about animals than people, Jake muttered, releasing his grip on the rope. Why are you doing this? Clara asked, stroking Hope's neck to calm her. The truth, Jake. Jake ran a hand through his hair. I owe some people money. Bad people. They heard about my connection to you and said if I got this horse, they'd clear my debt. Connection to me? What are you talking about? Before Jake could answer, the sound of a car engine cut through the fog. Headlights appeared on the road, and a black SUV skidded to a stop nearby. The driver's door flew open, and Grayson jumped out, his face a mask of fury as he rushed toward them. Get away from my horse, he growled at Jake, placing himself between Clara and the other man. Jake raised his hands. Easy, man, just having a chat with my old girlfriend. Grayson's eyes darted to Clara. Girlfriend. Ex, Clara clarified quickly. From a long time ago. And a coincidence finding her here, Jake added with a smirk. Small world. There's no such thing as coincidences, Grayson said coldly. Who sent you? Jake's confident expression faltered. Under Grayson's intense stare. Look, I don't want any trouble. You brought trouble when you stepped onto my property and tried to steal my horse, Grayson said, pulling out his phone. I'm calling the sheriff. Wait, Jake backed away. It was Victor Maxwell, okay? He hired me. Grayson froze, his finger hovering over the screen. Victor? The name clearly meant something to him, though Clara had never heard it before. He said you'd know why, Jake continued. Something about settling old scores. Grayson's face paled. Get off my property now and tell Victor if he wants to settle things, he comes to me directly. Not through my horses or... He glanced at Clara. Anyone else? Jake didn't need to be told twice. He turned and jogged back toward the road, disappearing into the fog. Clara led Hope back toward the pasture, with Grayson walking silently beside her. Once the foal was safely back with her mother, Clara turned to face him. You came back early. From your trip, she said. Mrs. Winters called. She said someone had been watching the property. Grayson's eyes were troubled. I was worried. Who's Victor Maxwell? Grayson looked away. Someone from my past. Someone who blames me for my brother's death. Was he responsible for your brother's accident? Clara asked gently. No. Grayson's voice was barely audible. I was. Back at the stable, they sat side by side on the wooden bench where Clara had found his letter, the one she'd dropped and never finished reading. Andrew and I were racing, Grayson began, staring at his hands. It was raining, like today. The ground was slippery. I pushed him to go faster, to take a jump he wasn't ready for. When Andrew fell, Victor was there. He saw everything. He was Andrew's friend. More than that. Victor loved my brother. Grayson closed his eyes briefly. They were together. Victor never forgave me for what happened. Clara took Grayson's hand. It was an accident, Grayson. An accident I caused. He looked at her with raw pain in his eyes. Victor swore he'd take everything I loved, just like I took everything from him. And he thinks stealing Hope would hurt you? He knows the horses are my life. Grayson's grip tightened on her hand. At least, they were. Until you came along. Clara's breath caught. Your letter. You asked if I only came for the horses. Did. You? At first, yes, she admitted, but now... Before she could finish, Mrs. Winters appeared at the stable door, her face pinched with worry. Mr. Bell, there's a call for you. It's Mr. Hamilton. Grayson nodded. I'll be right there. When the housekeeper left, he turned back to Clara. Martin, Hamilton is my lawyer. After what happened today, I need to speak with him. Of course, Clara said, though disappointment washed over her. Once again, their moment had been interrupted. Stay for dinner? Grayson asked, standing. We have a lot to talk about, Clara smiled. I'd like that. While Grayson took his call, Clara stayed in the stables, checking on each horse to make sure they were okay after the day's excitement. She wondered about Jake's words, how someone had discovered their connection and used it against him. It couldn't be a coincidence that her ex-boyfriend had shown up at High Ridge Estate, targeting the one thing Grayson loved most. As she brushed Midnight's gleaming coat, Clara heard footsteps behind her. Expecting Grayson, she turned with a smile. That quickly faded when she saw it was Mrs. Winters. "He cares about you," the older woman said without preamble. "I haven't seen him like this since before the accident." "I care about him too," Clara replied. Mrs. Winters stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Then you should know the trustee, Mr. Blackwood, is trying to have Grayson declared mentally unfit to manage the estate." Clara stared at her in shock. "What? Why?" "Money, of course. If Mr. Blackwood controls the estate, he controls the fortune. And he doesn't approve of—" Mrs. Winters glanced meaningfully at Clara. "Distractions. That's what he meant," Clara whispered, remembering the conversation she'd glimpsed between Grayson and his trustee in the rain. "He told Grayson something about losing everything. Mr. Blackwood told him that if he let you in, he might lose everything else," Mrs. Winters confirmed. It was a warning. Clara felt sick. "Does Grayson know about the mental competency thing?" "No. I overheard Mr. Blackwood on the phone. He's gathering evidence, claiming Grayson has been unstable since his brother's death." The housekeeper's eyes were sad. "The horses, the isolation, and now me," Clara finished. "He thinks I'm after Grayson's money." "Are you?" "No. I didn't even know who Grayson was when we met. I just came for the horses." Mrs. Winters studied her face, then nodded. "I believe you, but Mr. Blackwood won't. And now with this Victor person causing trouble..." Clara's mind raced. If Blackwood succeeded, Grayson would lose his home, his horses, everything. That mattered to him. And Victor Maxwell seemed determined to hurt Grayson any way he could. "What can I do?" Clara asked. "Be careful," Mrs. Winters warned. "Mr. Blackwood has eyes everywhere, and after today's incident, he'll have even more ammunition against Grayson." The sound of approaching footsteps silenced their conversation. Grayson appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. "Bad news?" Clara asked. "Victor has filed a claim against the estate," Grayson said. "He says he invested money in the horses with Andrew, that half of them rightfully belong to him." "Can he do that?" "My lawyer says the claim is weak, but it will take time to fight." Grayson ran a hand over his face. "And Blackwood is furious about the security breach. He's calling an emergency meeting of the trustees tomorrow." Clara felt a chill. Mrs. Winters had been right. Things were moving quickly. "Maybe I should go," she said quietly. "I seem to be causing you trouble." Grayson crossed the space between them in 3 strides. "Don't say that. Don't ever say that." He took her hands in his. "You're the only good thing that's happened to me in 3 years." The intensity in his eyes made Clara's heart race. "Grayson, there's something you should know. About Blackwood." The stable door swung open with a bang, cutting off her words. A tall man in an expensive suit strode in, his face twisted with contempt as he looked from Grayson to Clara. "So it's true," he said coldly. "While the estate faces her legal crisis, you're out here playing stableboy with the local librarian." "Blackwood," Grayson acknowledged, his voice tight. "This is hardly the time. On the contrary, this is exactly the time." Blackwood gestured to Clara. "This association needs to end. Now, before you lose everything your family built." Clara felt Grayson's hands tighten around hers. "Get out," Grayson told Blackwood, his voice dangerously quiet. "I'm trying to protect you," Blackwood insisted. "You haven't been thinking clearly since Andrew died. The isolation, the obsession with these animals, and now this inappropriate relationship." "Clara is not inappropriate," Grayson cut him off. "And my relationship with her is none of your business." Blackwood's eyes narrowed. "It is when it affects the estate. Do you have any idea what people in town are saying? That you've let some gold digger move in?" "Enough!" Grayson shouted. "I want you off my property. Now." "You can't dismiss me," Blackwood said smugly. "I've been your family's trustee for 20 years. I have certain rights." "Rights you've been abusing," Grayson countered. Did you think I wouldn't find out about your meetings with the other trustees? Your attempts to have me declared incompetent? Blackwood's confidence faltered. Who told? And you see what, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're fired. My lawyer will be in touch. Grayson pointed to the door. Now get out before I have you removed. For a moment, Blackwood looked like he might argue further. Then his face hardened, and he turned to Clara. You've made a powerful enemy today, Miss Wren. I hope he's worth it. With that, he stalked out of the stable. As soon as he was gone, Grayson pulled Clara into his arms. I'm sorry. He had no right to speak to you that way. Clara looked up at him. Is it true? Was he trying to have you declared incompetent? Yes, Martin confirmed it. Blackwood's been planning this for months, gathering evidence of my supposed mental instability. Grayson's hold tightened, but firing him won't be the end of it. He has allies among the trustees. And now Victor's claim against the horses, Clara added. It's all happening at once. It's not a coincidence, Grayson said. Victor and Blackwood are working together. They have been all along, Clara gasped. That's why Jake knew about me. Blackwood must have told Victor, who sent Jake to steal Hope, knowing it would cause more trouble for you. Grayson nodded grimly. They're trying to prove I can't manage the estate, that I'm still too consumed by grief over Andrew to think clearly. His eyes found hers. But they're wrong. For the first time in 3 years, I am thinking clearly. Because of you. The tenderness in his voice made Clara's heart swell. What happens now? Now we fight back. Grayson's jaw set with determination. Martin is gathering evidence of Blackwood's misconduct, and as for Victor, he sighed. I need to face him. After all this time, we need to talk about Andrew. I'll help however I can, Clara promised. It won't be easy, Grayson warned. The trustees might freeze my accounts. Victor might make more attempts to take the horses. And the town gossip? I don't care about any of that, Clara said firmly. I care about you. And the horses. Grayson smiled, a real warm smile that lit up his eyes. Then I can face anything. He leaned down and gently, almost hesitantly, pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was soft, tender, filled with promise. When they broke apart, Clara felt breathless. Sorry, Grayson murmured. I've wanted to do that for weeks. Don't be sorry, Clara replied, smiling up at him. I've wanted you to. As they walked hand in hand toward the house for dinner, the setting, sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. The horses grazed peacefully in their pasture, unaware of the storm gathering around them all. That night, over a simple meal in Grayson's kitchen, they made plans. Grayson would meet with the remaining trustees he still trusted. Clara would take extra shifts at the library to avoid giving Blackwood any more ammunition about her moving in to take advantage of Grayson. I feel like I should stay away to make things easier for you, Clara admitted. That's exactly what they want, Grayson said, reaching across the table for her hand. To isolate me again. I won't let them. As Clara pedaled home that night, her mind was filled with swirling thoughts. In just a few weeks, her life had completely changed. What had started as a childhood fascination with horses had led her to Grayson, a man healing from his own wounds, fighting to protect what he loved, and now she was part of that fight. Clara had no idea that across town in a dimly lit bar, Jake Mercer was sliding into a booth across from Victor Maxwell and Richard Blackwood, his expression worried. She stopped me, Jake was saying. I couldn't get the horse. Unfortunate, Blackwood replied coldly, but perhaps useful. Bell's reaction, racing home, confronting you, it demonstrates his instability. Victor nodded, his handsome face hard, with old grief and new determination. And now we know his weakness. Clara, Jake asked. Look, I agreed to take the horse, but I never said anything about hurting Clara. Victor leaned forward. No one's going to hurt her. But Grayson Bell took everything from me. It's only fair I return the favor. Blackwood smiled thinly. Our next move requires precision. If Bell thinks he's won by firing me, he's mistaken. He turned to Jake. You said you and Clara have history. How much does she know about you? Jake shifted uncomfortably. Enough to hate me. I took her savings and disappeared. Perfect, Victor said, his eyes gleaming. Because we're going to need you to reconnect with your old girlfriend. Make her an offer she can't refuse. Jake looked uncertain. What kind of offer? Blackwood slid, an envelope across the table. The kind that tests where her true loyalties lie. A cool autumn breeze rustled through the trees surrounding High Ridge Estate as Clara arrived for her morning visit. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation with Blackwood, and the estate was quieter now. No more trustee meetings in the main house, no more suspicious cars parked at the gates. But the battle was far from over. Clara found Grayson in the barn, checking Princess's front leg. The mare had stepped on a sharp stone yesterday, causing a small cut that needed monitoring. "How is she?" Clara asked, setting down her bag. Grayson looked up, his face brightening at the sight of her. "Better. The swelling's gone down." He stood, brushing hay from his jeans. "How was work?" "Busy. End of summer reading program means lots of books to sort." Clara stepped closer, letting him pull her into a quick embrace. These small moments of affection still felt new and wonderful. "Any word from your lawyer?" Grayson's expression darkened. "Martin called this morning. The trustees are meeting tomorrow to vote on suspending my control of the estate until the court decides on Blackwood's petition." Clara's heart sank. Despite Grayson firing Blackwood, the trustee had followed through on his threat, filing formal papers claiming Grayson was mentally unfit to manage his family's assets. "How many trustees support you?" 3 out of 7. Grayson ran a hand through his hair. "Not enough," Clara squeezed his arm gently. "What about the Victor situation? No movement on his claim about the horses, but Martin thinks it's just a distraction, a way to add stress and make me look unstable when I react." Clara nodded. It made sense. Everything that had happened, Jake trying to steal Hope, Blackwood's accusations, Victor's legal claim, all seemed designed to push Grayson to his breaking point. "We need to prove they're working together," she said. "If we could show the trustees that Blackwood is conspiring, with Victor against you." "That's exactly what Martin is trying to do." Grayson checked his watch. "Speaking of which, I need to meet him in town in an hour to sign some papers." Clara nodded. "I'll stay with the horses. Mrs. Winters asked me to help her clean out the tack room anyway." Grayson smiled. "You know you don't have to do chores around here, right? You're not a stable hand." "I like helping," Clara said simply. "It makes me feel useful." Grayson touched her cheek gently. "You're much more than useful, Clara Wren." He kissed her softly before grabbing his jacket. "I shouldn't be more than a couple of hours." After Grayson left, Clara spent the morning helping Mrs. Winters organize the tack room. The older woman had become a trusted ally, keeping Clara informed about the estate's business and warning her when certain trustees were visiting. "Mr. Blackwood came by yesterday," Mrs. Winters said as they polished saddles. "Sneaking around while Mr. Bell was out riding. Said he was collecting personal items from his office, but I caught him in Mr. Bell's study going through his desk." "Did you tell Grayson?" "Of course, but there wasn't anything important in there for Blackwood to find." Mrs. Winters sighed. "That man has wanted control of this estate for years. Andrew was the only one who saw through him." Clara paused her polishing. "Andrew, Grayson's brother?" Mrs. Winters nodded. "He never trusted Blackwood. Said the man had a way of twisting things, making people doubt themselves. After Andrew died, Mr. Bell was so consumed with guilt that he stopped paying attention to the business side of things, gave Blackwood too much freedom. And now Blackwood doesn't want to give it up," Clara murmured. "Exactly." Mrs. Winters looked at Clara carefully. "Be careful around that man, Miss Wren. He's dangerous when he doesn't get his way." They worked in silence for a while, until the sound of a car on the gravel driveway made them both look up. "That can't be Mr. Bell already," Mrs. Winters said, frowning. "He's only been gone 30 minutes. Clara walked to the window and felt her stomach drop. Jake's old blue sedan was parked outside the stable. "It's Jake," she said. "My ex." Mrs. Winters's eyes widened. "The one who tried to steal Hope. Should I call the sheriff?" Clara hesitated. Jake had been working with Blackwood and Victor, but he'd also seemed uncomfortable with their plans. Maybe she could get information from him. "No," she decided. "I'll talk to him, but stay close, just in case." Mrs. Winters nodded, picking up a heavy pitchfork. "I'll be right inside the feed room." Clara stepped outside as Jake got out of his car. He looked nervous, constantly glancing around as if expecting to be caught. "You shouldn't be here," Clara said coldly. "Grayson could have. You arrested for trespassing. Again." I know." Jake raised his hands. "But I needed to talk to you alone." "About what?" Jake looked over his shoulder before answering. "Blackwood and Victor. They're planning something big, Clara. Something that's going to hurt Belle. Bad." Clara crossed her arms. "Why are you telling me this, and why should I believe you?" "Because—" Jake looked genuinely troubled. "Because despite everything, I don't want to see you hurt. And you will be if you stay mixed up with Belle." "What are they planning?" Clara demanded. Jake sighed. "They've got more than just the mental competency thing going. Victor found Andrew's old journals, pages where he wrote about Belle's reckless behavior, his temper. They're going to use them in court to prove Belle was responsible for his brother's death." Clara felt sick. Grayson already blamed himself. Seeing Andrew's words would devastate him. "And there's more," Jake continued. "Blackwood has evidence that some of the estate's money was transferred to offshore accounts after Andrew died. He's going to claim Belle did it, that he's been embezzling from his own trust." "That's ridiculous," Clara said. "Grayson would never—" "It doesn't matter if he did it or not. The evidence looks real." Jake stepped closer. "Clara, these guys aren't playing games. They want everything Belle has, and they'll destroy anyone who gets in their way, including you." Clara's mind raced. If what Jake was saying was true, Grayson was in even more trouble than they thought. "Why are you really here, Jake? What do they want?" Jake had the decency to look ashamed. "They sent me with an offer." "What kind of offer?" "They know you're close to Belle, that you've been helping with the horses, spending time at the estate." Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "They want information, anything that could help their case against him." Clara stared at the envelope. "They want me to spy on Grayson?" Jake nodded. "If you agree, they'll pay you $50,000. Clara felt rage boil up inside her. "You really think I'd do that? That I'd betray him for money?" "People have done worse for less," Jake said quietly. "Look, I'm just the messenger, but if you turn this down, they'll find another way to separate you two. Blackwood has connections with the library board. He could have you fired." "Let him try," Clara said fiercely. "I'm not afraid of him." Jake looked genuinely worried now. "You should be. Both of you should be." He held out the envelope again. "Just take it. Think about it." Against her better judgment, Clara took the envelope. "Get out of here, Jake, and tell Blackwood and Victor they picked the wrong person to intimidate." Jake nodded, then surprised her by adding, "Be careful, Clara. These guys play dirty and—" He hesitated. "I'm sorry about everything, about us." Before Clara could respond, Jake got back in his car and drove away. Clara stood watching until his taillights disappeared down the driveway, the envelope heavy in her hand. Mrs. Winters emerged from the feed room, still clutching the pitchfork. "What did he want?" Clara held up the envelope. "To buy me off. They want me to spy on Grayson." Mrs. Winters' eyes widened. "The nerve! You'll tell Mr. Bell, of course." "Of course," Clara said, though a nagging doubt had formed in her mind. If Grayson knew about this, he might insist she stay away for her own safety, and right now he needed her more than ever. The sound of another car approaching made them both turn. This time, it was Grayson's black SUV, returning much earlier than expected. He got out quickly, his face tense. "Clara, we need to talk." Mrs. Winters tactfully excused herself, heading back to the main house as Grayson led Clara to a bench outside. "The stable." "What's wrong?" Clara asked, still holding Jake's envelope behind her back. "Martin received a copy of the documents Blackwood plans to present at tomorrow's meeting." Grayson's voice was strained. "They have statements from people in town claiming they've seen me acting erratically, that I've been unstable since Andrew died." "That's not true," Clara said firmly. "It gets worse." Grayson couldn't meet her eyes. "They have information about you, about your financial situation after your aunt died, the money Jake stole from you." Clara felt cold. "How could they know about that?" "Jake must have told them. They're trying to paint you as—" Grayson struggled with the words. "As a gold digger," Clara finished for him. "Someone desperate enough for money to target a vulnerable millionaire." Grayson nodded miserably. They're using our relationship as proof of my poor judgment, claiming I'm being manipulated. That's ridiculous. I know. Grayson took her hands, finally noticing the envelope she was holding. What's that? Clara hesitated, then handed it to him. Jake was just here. Blackwood and Victor sent him with an offer. $50,000 if I spy on you and help their case. Grayson stared at the envelope, his expression hardening. Open it. Clara tore open the envelope. Inside was a check made out to her for $10,000, first payment, along with a burner phone and a note with instructions on what information they wanted and how to contact them. This is getting out of hand, Grayson said, his voice tight with anger. They're trying to bribe you now? They're desperate, Clara replied, which means they're worried we must be doing something right. Grayson shook his head. Oh, they're just getting started. He stood abruptly. I need to call Martin. As Grayson paced away to make his call, Clara stared at the check in her hand. $50,000 was more money than she'd ever had. It could pay off her aunt's remaining medical bills, fix her apartment's leaky roof, buy a reliable car to replace her old bicycle, but it would cost her something priceless, her integrity and Grayson's trust. Clara ripped the check in half, then in quarters, letting the pieces scatter in the wind. When Grayson returned, his expression was grim. Martin says this is attempted witness tampering. It's a crime. We can take this to the police. And then what? Clara asked. Blackwood will deny being involved. He'll say Jake acted alone. It's still evidence of a conspiracy against me, Grayson insisted. It could help delay tomorrow's vote. Clara nodded, though she wasn't convinced. Blackwood had been careful. The note in the envelope wasn't signed, and the phone couldn't be traced back to him. That evening, they sat in Grayson's kitchen, reviewing their options with Martin Hamilton over speakerphone. The lawyer's voice was weary, but determined. I've contacted the 3 trustees who support you, Martin was saying. They've agreed to request a postponement of tomorrow's vote in light of this bribery attempt. Will that work? Clara asked. It might buy us a week, Martin replied. But Blackwood has the majority. Unless we can convince another trustee to support Grayson, the outcome looks grim. Grayson's jaw tightened. And if they vote to suspend my control, then Blackwood takes over as temporary executor until the court makes a final decision on the competency petition. Martin sighed. Which could take months. And the horses? Clara asked quietly. Victor's claim? That's separate, but related. If Grayson loses control of the estate, Victor's chances of winning his claim improve significantly. After the call ended, Clara and Grayson sat in heavy silence. The future they had just begun to build together seemed to be crumbling before their eyes. You should go, Grayson said suddenly. Get as far away from this mess as possible. Clara stared at him. What are you talking about? They're targeting you now, Clara. Using you against me. It's only going to get worse. Grayson's eyes were pained. I can't let you be dragged down with me. That's not your decision to make, Clara said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. You could lose your job, your reputation. I don't care. Clara moved to kneel in front of him, taking his hands in hers. I've spent my whole life watching happiness from a distance, standing at fences, looking in. Now I've finally found something real, something worth fighting for. I'm not walking away. Grayson pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do, Clara whispered against his chest. We both deserve a chance at happiness. Later that night, as Clara prepared to leave, Grayson walked her to her bicycle as usual. The night was clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds. I've been thinking, he said suddenly, about what would happen if I lose control of the estate. We'll fight it, Clara assured him. We'll appeal. But if we lose... Grayson took a deep breath. The horses are what matter most. I couldn't bear to see them sold off or neglected. That won't happen, Clara said, though she wasn't sure how they could prevent it. There might be a way. Grayson's eyes were intense in the moonlight. If we were married, you'd have legal rights to the estate, rights Blackwood couldn't ignore. Clara felt her heart stop. Married? Grayson, we've only known each other a few months. I know it sounds crazy, he admitted, and maybe it is, but I also know how I feel about you. His voice softened. I love you, Clara. I think I have since that first dinner, when you laughed at my terrible pasta. Clara's eyes filled with tears. I love you too, but marriage? Now? It would just give Blackwood more ammunition. He'd claim you're acting impulsively, that it proves his point about your mental state. Grayson sighed. You're right, I'm not thinking clearly. He touched her face gently. But the feeling behind it is real. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Blackwood and Victor throw at us, we'll face it together. Clara rode home with her, mind and heart full. She loved Grayson, she knew that now beyond any doubt. And she wouldn't abandon him when he needed her most. But as she approached her small apartment building, she noticed a car parked across the street. A car she recognized. Jake was waiting for her. Clara briefly considered ignoring him, but curiosity won out. She wheeled her bike over to his car. What now? She asked through his open window. Come to make another offer. Jake looked troubled. No. I came to warn you. They know you turned down the money. So they're moving to Plan B. Jake wouldn't meet her eyes. They paid someone at the library to plant evidence on your computer. Emails to Grayson from months ago before you even met, making it look like you targeted him deliberately. Clara felt her blood run cold. That's impossible. It doesn't matter what really happened. The emails look real. They're going to discover them tomorrow and use them at the trustee meeting. Jake finally looked at her. I didn't sign up for framing innocent people, Clara. This has gone too far. Why are you telling me this? Because I owe you, Jake said, simply. For what I did 2 years ago. And because whatever else I am, I'm not a complete monster. Clara believed him. Despite everything, she could see the genuine remorse in his eyes. What can I do? She asked. How do I stop this? You can't. Jake started his car. But maybe you can use it somehow. I've told you their plan. That's all I can do. As Jake drove away, Clara stood frozen on the sidewalk. How could she fight? Fabricated evidence. Her word against Blackwood's wouldn't be enough. And if the trustees saw these fake emails, they would definitely vote to suspend Grayson's control. Their plans for a postponement wouldn't matter. By this time tomorrow, Grayson could lose everything. Clara unlocked her apartment with trembling hands and reached for her phone. She needed to warn Grayson immediately. But as she dialed his number, another thought struck her. If Blackwood and Victor were willing to fabricate evidence, maybe it was time to turn their tactics against them. Clara hung up before the call connected. She needed time to think, to formulate a plan. Something that would expose Blackwood and Victor's conspiracy once and for all, and she knew exactly where to start. The next morning, as dawn broke over High Ridge Estate, Clara arrived earlier than usual. She found Grayson in the stable, already dressed for the trustee meeting in a dark suit that made him look both handsome and formidable. I have an idea, she said without preamble, but you're not going to like it. Grayson listened as Clara outlined her plan. His expression grew increasingly troubled. Absolutely not, he said when she finished. It's too dangerous. If Blackwood realizes what you're doing, he won't, Clara insisted. Not until it's too late. Clara, these men are willing to fabricate evidence to bribe people to threaten your job. Who knows what else they're capable of? That's exactly why we need to stop them, now before they can do any more damage. Clara took his hands. Trust me, Grayson, I can do this. Grayson looked down at their joined hands, then back up at her determined face. I do trust you. That's not the issue. Then, what is? I've already lost my brother, Grayson said quietly. I couldn't bear to lose you too. Clara felt her heart swell with love for this man who had endured so much pain, yet still found the courage to open his heart again. You won't lose me, she promised. But we have to fight back. And this is our best chance. After a long moment, Grayson nodded. All right, but you'll have backup every step of the way, Clara smiled. I was counting on it. As they finalized the details of their plan, the morning sun streamed through the stable windows, illuminating the dust motes floating in the air. Outside, the horses grazed peacefully, unaware of the battle about to be fought for their future, and for the future of the two people who loved them most. The morning of the trustee meeting dawned clear and cool. Clara arrived at the estate before the first light, wearing her most professional outfit, a simple navy dress and cardigan she usually saved for library presentations. Today, she needed to look composed, confident, and completely trustworthy. The plan they had devised was risky. While Grayson attended the trustee meeting at his lawyer's office downtown, Clara would put herself in harm's way, deliberately walking into the lion's den. "Will you have the phone?" Grayson asked as they stood on his front porch, the sunrise painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Clara patted her purse. "Right here. Recording app is ready to go." "And Mrs. Winters knows what to do? She'll call me with the emergency at exactly 10 o'clock. Clara checked her watch. "Which gives me an hour with Blackwood before you arrive." Grayson pulled her close, his eyes full of worry. "I still don't like this." "It'll work," Clara assured him, touching his face gently. "Blackwood wants to gloat. He wants to see me squirm when he reveals those fake emails. That's his weakness. And Victor. If Jake's information is correct, Victor won't be at the office. He'll be at the trustee meeting, ready to present his claim about the horses." Clara straightened Grayson's tie. "You focus on delaying that vote. I'll handle Blackwood." Grayson nodded, then leaned down to kiss her. A kiss filled with love and worry and determination. "Be careful. If anything feels wrong, I'll get out of there," Clara promised. "Martin's assistant will be across the street, watching the whole time." They parted ways, Grayson driving to his lawyer's office, while Clara headed toward Blackwood Financial Advisors in the center of town. The small building housed Blackwood's business, where he managed not just the Bell estate, but several other wealthy families' fortunes. Clara's heart pounded as she pushed open the glass door and approached the receptionist. "I'd like to see Mr. Blackwood, please. My name is Clara Wren." The receptionist, a young woman with carefully styled hair, looked up in surprise. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I think he'll want to see me." Clara forced confidence into her voice. "It's about Grayson Bell." The words had their intended effect. Minutes later, Clara was ushered into Blackwood's spacious corner office. The man himself sat behind an imposing desk, his expression a mixture of surprise and smug satisfaction. "Miss Wren, this is unexpected." Blackwood gestured to a chair across from him. "Please sit down." Clara did so, crossing her legs and placing her purse in her lap, positioned so that the phone inside could record clearly. "I imagine you're wondering why I'm here," she began. "I have some ideas." Blackwood leaned back in his chair. "Perhaps you've reconsidered our offer." Clara bit her lip, feigning nervousness. "Not exactly. But I've been thinking about what Jake told me, about the emails you supposedly found." Blackwood's eyebrows rose. "Supposedly? We both know they're fake," Clara said directly. "Just like we both know what you and Victor are trying to do to Grayson." Blackwood's smile was cold. "And what exactly do you think that is? You want control of the estate. Victor wants the horses, and neither of you cares who gets hurt in the process." Clara leaned forward slightly. "I'm here to make a counter-offer." Interest flickered in Blackwood's eyes. "I'm listening." "Leave Grayson alone. Drop this ridiculous competency petition. In return, I'll disappear from his life." The words hurt to say, even knowing they were part of the plan. "No more gold digger causing problems." Blackwood studied her. "And why would you do that?" "Because I care about him," Clara said, letting real emotion into her voice. "And I don't want to see him lose everything he loves." "How noble." Blackwood's tone was mocking. "But I'm afraid it's too late for that. The trustees meet in less than an hour, and I have more than enough evidence to convince them, including those emails." Clara pretended to react with alarm. "What emails? What are you talking about?" Blackwood smiled and opened a folder on his desk. "Emails from your personal account to Grayson dating back 8 months ago, long before your chance meeting at the fence." He slid a printed page across the desk. "You discussed how to approach him, how to gain his trust through his horses." "Very calculating." Clara stared at the forged email, her genuine shock making her performance convincing. "This is impossible, I never wrote this." And yet, here it is, along with bank statements showing deposits to your account right after your aunt's funeral. Deposits that match withdrawals from one of Grayson's accounts. Blackwood's smile widened. "It looks very much like he was paying you even before you officially met." Clara's hands trembled, not entirely an act. The extent of Blackwood's fabrications was breathtaking. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Grayson has never done anything to hurt you." Something hardened in Blackwood's eyes. "His father trusted me with everything. I built that estate's wealth to what it is today. Then Andrew died, and suddenly Grayson starts questioning my decisions, threatening to replace me." He shook his head. "I've given 20 years to the Bell family. I deserve my share." "And Victor, what does he deserve?" "Justice," Blackwood said simply. "Andrew was his partner in every sense. They had plans for those horses. Breeding plans. That would have made millions. Grayson's recklessness ended all that." Clara felt a chill. The depth of these men's resentment toward Grayson was greater than she'd realized. But forging evidence, bribing people. There has to be a line somewhere, she argued. Blackwood leaned forward. "In business, Miss Wren, there are no lines, only results." He checked his watch. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a meeting to attend. The trustees are expecting these documents." Clara reached for her purse, pressing the stop button on the recording app. She had what they needed. "I hope you know what you're doing, Mr. Blackwood. People who build their success on lies often find it doesn't last." Blackwood stood, gathering his files. "Save the morality lessons, my dear. By this afternoon, Grayson Bell will be removed as head of his family's estate, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it." As they walked toward the door, Clara's phone rang. Right on schedule. Mrs. Winters with the fake emergency. "Hello?" Clara answered, feigning concern as she listened. "What, is she all right?" "Yes, I'll be right there." She hung up and turned to Blackwood. "I have to go." "There's been an accident at the estate. One of the horses is injured." Blackwood smirked. "How convenient. Give Grayson my regards when you see him. It might be the last time he welcomes you on his property." Clara rushed out of the office, nodding, to Martin's assistant who sat in a parked car across the street. Phase 1 complete. Now everything depended on Grayson, and whether he could delay the trustee vote long enough for them to use the recording. At Martin Hamilton's law office, Grayson sat at a long conference table surrounded by the 7 trustees of the Bell estate. Victor Maxwell sat at the far end, a small smile playing on his lips as the chairman called the meeting to order. "We're here today to vote on temporarily suspending Grayson Bell's control of the family estate, pending the court's decision on Richard Blackwood's petition regarding mental competency," the chairman began. "Before we proceed," Martin interjected, "my client requests a postponement. New evidence has come to light regarding Mr. Blackwood's conduct that bears directly on this matter." "What evidence?" one of the trustees asked. "Evidence of witness tampering and fabrication of documents," Martin replied. "We need time to properly present this evidence to the board." Victor leaned forward. "This sounds like a delay tactic. Mr. Blackwood isn't even here yet to defend himself against these accusations." "Exactly my point," Martin countered. "Since he's a central figure in this matter, shouldn't we wait for his arrival before voting?" The trustees murmured among themselves, clearly divided. Grayson checked his watch anxiously. They needed to stall for at least another 30 minutes to give Clara time to get the recording to Martin's office. "While we wait for Mr. Blackwood," Grayson said, rising to his feet, "I'd like to address Mr. Maxwell's claim regarding ownership of the horses." Victor's eyes narrowed. "My claim is straightforward. Andrew and I had a verbal agreement about breeding and training those horses. After his death, Grayson excluded me entirely." "A verbal agreement?" Grayson questioned. "With no documentation whatsoever." "Andrew trusted me," Victor shot back. "Unlike some people." Grayson felt the familiar stab of guilt, but pushed through it. "My brother kept meticulous records of every business arrangement. If such an agreement existed, it would be documented." "Not everything between us was business," Victor said coldly. "I'm well aware of your personal relationship with my brother," Grayson replied, "and I respected it. But that doesn't give you ownership rights to Bell family property." The door to The conference room swung open, and Richard Blackwood strode in, briefcase in hand. "Sorry I'm late. I had an unexpected visitor at my office." The chairman nodded. "We were just discussing the postponement request from Mr. Bell's attorney." "Postponement?" Blackwood scoffed. "On what grounds?" "Alleged evidence of misconduct on your part," the chairman explained. Blackwood's confident smile didn't waver. "I assure you any such accusations are baseless. In fact, I have evidence of my own to present." He opened his briefcase and began distributing folders to each trustee. These documents clearly demonstrate Mr. Bell's instability and poor judgment over the past 3 years. Grayson tensed as the trustees began reviewing the materials. They contained everything Jake had warned about: statements from townspeople, financial records with irregularities, and worst of all, the fabricated emails between Clara and Grayson. "As you can see," Blackwood continued, "Mr. Bell has been manipulated by Miss Wren, a young woman with significant financial problems who targeted him specifically for his wealth." Martin leaned over to whisper to Grayson, "Where is Clara? We need that recording." Grayson checked his phone. No messages. "She should be here by now." The chairman looked up from the documents with a troubled expression. "These allegations are very serious, Mr. Blackwood. If these emails are authentic—" "They are not," Grayson interrupted firmly. "They are fabrications created by Mr. Blackwood as part of a coordinated effort with Mr. Maxwell to seize control of my family's estate." Blackwood laughed dismissively. "That's absurd. Mr. Maxwell and I barely know each other." "Really?" A new voice spoke from the doorway. Clara stood there, slightly out of breath, her phone in her hand. "That's not what you told me in your office." 30 minutes ago, Mr. Blackwood." All heads turned toward her. Victor half rose from his seat while Blackwood's face darkened with anger. "Miss Wren is not part of this meeting," he protested. "Actually, I think she is," Martin said, standing to usher Clara into the room, "especially if she has relevant evidence to present." Clara approached the table confidently, though her heart was racing. "I recorded my conversation with Mr. Blackwood this morning." She held up her phone. "He admitted to forging those emails and fabricating evidence against Grayson. He also admitted to working with Victor Maxwell to take control of the estate and the horses." Blackwood's face went pale. "You can't record someone without their consent. It's illegal." "Not in this state," Martin corrected. "Single-party consent is all that's required." The chairman looked between Clara and Blackwood. "Is this true, Richard? Did you forge documents to support your petition?" "Of course not," Blackwood blustered. "She's lying, probably edited the recording to frame me." "Let's listen and find out," Martin suggested, taking Clara's phone and connecting it to the conference room's speaker system. The recording began to play, filling the room with Blackwood's voice admitting to fabricating evidence, to his resentment of Grayson, and to his coordination with Victor for their mutual benefit. As the recording continued, Blackwood's face contorted with rage. He lunged toward Clara. "You little—" Grayson moved quickly, placing himself between them. "Don't touch her." Security was called, and both Blackwood and Victor were escorted from the building. The trustees sat in stunned silence, the implications of what they'd heard sinking in. "In light of this evidence," the chairman finally said, "I move that we unanimously reject the petition to suspend Mr. Bell's control of the estate and launch a full investigation into Mr. Blackwood's actions as trustee." The motion was seconded and passed without opposition. As the meeting adjourned, the trustees approached Grayson one by one, offering apologies and support. When they were finally alone in the conference room, Grayson pulled Clara into his arms. "You were incredible and incredibly brave." Clara smiled, up at him. "We did it, together." Martin gathered his papers, beaming. "This recording will also put an end to Victor's claim on the horses. No court will take him seriously now that his conspiracy with Blackwood has been exposed." "What will happen to them?" Clara asked. "Blackwood will likely face criminal charges for fraud and possibly embezzlement," Martin explained. "We'll need to audit all the estate's finances. As for Victor," he shrugged, "that depends on how directly involved he was in the forgeries." As they left the building, the late morning sun felt especially warm and bright. Clara took Grayson's hand as they walked to his car. "There's one thing I don't understand," she said. "How did Jake know about those fake emails before they were presented today?" Grayson's expression was thoughtful. "I've been wondering that, too. Either Blackwood told him or Jake was more involved than he let on," Clara finished. "He seemed genuinely remorseful when he warned me. But with Jake, it's hard to know what's real." "Does it matter now?" Grayson asked gently. Clara considered the question. "I guess not. Whatever his reasons, his warning helped us prepare." Back at High Ridge Estate, Mrs. Winters greeted them with a tray of iced tea on the porch. "By the look on your faces, I'd say it went well. Better than we hoped," Grayson confirmed, accepting a glass. "Blackwood and Victor have been exposed. The trustees are firmly on our side now." Mrs. Winters smiled broadly. "I knew you two would figure it out. The estate hasn't felt this alive in years." After she went inside, Grayson and Clara stood at the porch railing, looking out over the pasture where the horses grazed peacefully in the afternoon sun. "I never thanked you properly," Grayson said quietly. "For what?" "For stopping at that fence all those months ago. For seeing something in me worth saving." Clara leaned against him. "You did the same for me. I was just existing before, going through the motions. You and the horses gave me something to care about again." Grayson turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I meant what I said last night, about how I feel about you." "I know." Clara squeezed his hands. "I love you too." "And the other part?" Grayson asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "About marriage?" Clara smiled. "That part was definitely rushed. We have time now, Grayson. Time to do things right." Relief and happiness spread across his face. "Time," he repeated. "That's all I wanted. A future with you, with no threats hanging over us." "Well, almost no threats," Clara amended. "We still need to figure out who's going to train Hope. That foal has a stubborn streak a mile wide." Grayson laughed, a free, joyful sound that Clara realized she'd never fully heard from him before. "I think between the two of us, we can manage one headstrong horse." Hand in hand, they walked down the porch steps and across the lawn toward Tew, the pasture. The horses raised their heads at their approach, nickering in greeting. Midnight trotted over to the fence, followed closely by Hope, who had grown significantly over the past months. Clara reached out to stroke the foal's muzzle, marveling at how far they had all come. "You know," Grayson said as he watched them, "my invitation that first day was just about dinner. I never expected—" "That I'd fall in love with your horses?" Clara teased. "That I'd fall in love with you," Grayson corrected softly. Clara smiled up at him. "Sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them." As the sun began its slow descent toward dusk, the same time of day when they had first spoken months ago, Grayson pulled Clara close and kissed her, a kiss that felt like a promise, like a new beginning. Behind them, the estate house stood proud against the golden sky. Before them, the horses roamed free in their pasture. And between them, a love that had started with a simple invitation at dusk, an invitation that had changed both their lives forever. 6 months later, on a perfect spring day, Clara stood in the bedroom of the estate house, hardly recognizing her reflection in the mirror. Her simple white dress flowed around her like water. In her hair, she wore a crown of wildflowers gathered from the meadow where she and Grayson often rode. Mrs. Winters fussed with the dress's hem. "You look beautiful, dear, like you belong here." "I feel like I do," Clara admitted, touching the small pearl necklace Grayson had given her that morning, a family heirloom that had belonged to his grandmother. A soft knock on the door interrupted them. To Clara's surprise, it was Jake who entered, looking uncomfortable in a suit. "You came," Clara said, genuinely surprised. The invitation had been Grayson's idea, a gesture of forgiveness that Clara hadn't expected. "Wouldn't miss it," Jake replied with a half smile. "You look happy, Clara, really happy." "I am." She studied his face, seeing none of the old manipulation there. After the trustee meeting, Jake had come forward voluntarily, admitting his role in Blackwood's scheme, but also providing key evidence that had helped build the criminal case against the former trustee. "How's the new job?" Jake had found work at the local hardware store, humble compared to the financial schemes he'd been involved in, but honest work. "It's good, simple. Turns out I'm pretty good at selling paint." Mrs. Winters tactfully excused herself, leaving them alone. "I never got a chance to thank you," Clara said. "For the warning about the emails. It made all the difference." Jake shrugged. "Least I could do, after everything." Another knock, and this time it was Mrs. Winters returning. "It's time, dear, everyone's waiting." Clara took a deep breath. "Ready." The ceremony was held in the pasture, with the horses watching curiously from behind a decorative fence. A small gathering of friends stood witness. Martin Hamilton, the supportive trustees, Clara's co-workers from the library, and a few of Grayson's business associates who had proven loyal during the crisis. As Clara walked across the grass toward Grayson, who waited beneath an arch of white roses, she remembered that first evening when she had approached his house for dinner, nervous, uncertain, expecting to make a quick exit. Now she was walking toward her future, toward the home and family she had found when she least expected it. Grayson's eyes never left her face as she approached, his expression filled with wonder and love. When she reached him, he took her hands in his. "You came back," he whispered. Echoing his words from that first dinner, Clara smiled. "I said I would." As they exchanged their vows, Hope, now nearly full-grown, pushed her head through the fence, nickering softly as if offering her own blessing. The guests laughed, and Clara reached out to stroke the horse's muzzle before turning back to Grayson. "Do," she said clearly, meaning it with all her heart. Later, as they danced their first dance as husband and wife on the lawn of what was now their home, Grayson pulled her close. "Happy?" he asked softly. Clara looked around at the estate, at the horses grazing in the distance, at the place that had gone from a childhood dream to her reality. "Completely," she whispered back, "though I still can't believe it all started." "With me trespassing on your property," Grayson laughed. "Best trespasser I ever caught." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in the same colors as the day they first met, Clara and Grayson stood together on the porch, watching their guests mingle on the lawn. "What do you think about expanding the stable?" Grayson asked suddenly. "There's a farm for sale down the road, good pasture land," Clara smiled. The idea of growing their small horse paradise appealed to her. "I think it sounds perfect. And maybe," Grayson hesitated, a mix of hope and vulnerability in his eyes, "maybe in a year or two, we could think about expanding in other ways too. This house was meant for a family." Clara's heart swelled with love. "I'd like that very much." As night fell, the stars appeared one by one above High Ridge Estate, the same stars Clara had gazed up at as a child, dreaming of horses and happiness, dreams that had finally come true, all because of an invitation, at dusk, an invitation that had led her home,